There's a moment that often goes unnoticed. It doesn't arrive all at once, with fanfare or warning. It settles in slowly, like morning fog through an open window. One day you wake up, and the body that once felt like an engine now feels like a machine idling in the cold. You sip your morning coffee, same mug, same seat, same ritual, but something is missing. The heat is there, but the fire isn't. The steam rises, but you don't. And you can't quite say when it began, this quiet fading, not a collapse, just a slow drift away from energy, away from hunger, away from the sense that your body was yours, fully yours. You look in the mirror and see the same eyes, but less behind them, not emptiness, just distance, a thinning of presence. You still get things done, you still function, but inside, something feels unplugged. The mornings are quieter now, and not in a peaceful way. More like a silence you didn't choose, a slowing down that doesn't feel earned, it just happened. Maybe you've blamed sleep, or age, or stress, or bad luck. You've chalked it up to the usual suspects. But deep down, there's a part of you that knows. This isn't about age, not really. It's about connection, connection to your energy, to your desire, to the fire of being a man, not in some performative way, but in the quiet, primal sense of feeling alive in your own skin. And the truth is, you miss it, not the chaos of youth, not the wildness, but the current, the internal voltage that told you I'm here, and I matter. Some men try to ignore the fading, push through it, outrun it, pretend their bodies aren't whispering. But that whisper grows louder in the stillness, in the space between things, in the pause before the second cup of coffee, in the way your eyes linger on nothing, just a beat too long. What you're feeling is real, and it's not a failure, it's not weakness, it's not laziness, it's life asking for your attention, not as a punishment but as an invitation to return, to remember the man beneath the momentum. The man whose energy wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual, a force that came from inside and poured into the world. But when life wears you down year after year, it's easy to drift. Easy to run on fumes, to live from responsibility, not from essence, and the body. It remembers, it always remembers, even when you forget. So this quiet fade, it isn't the end, it's the first knock on the door. A request from your cells, from your hormones, from your soul, asking gently, can we come back now, not to who you were, but to who you still are underneath the dullness, that steaming mug in your hand warm, but hollow. It's a symbol of routines that lost their meaning, of rituals that became maintenance, not nourishment. But what if that morning moment could change? What if that first sip wasn't just caffeine, but connection? Not to energy in the superficial sense, but to something deeper, the primal signal that you are still here, still capable, still vital, still worthy of fire. This chapter of your life doesn't require a revolution. It begins with noticing, with slowing down enough to ask, what have I stopped feeling? And more importantly, what do I long to feel again? There is no shame in this asking, no weakness in this reflection. In fact, it's the strongest thing a man can do to stop running and begin remembering. Let the silence be your teacher. Let the fatigue be your messenger. Let the hollowness of the morning be a doorway, not a dead end, because when you pause long enough to feel the absence, you're already on the path home. And that path doesn't lead back to youth. It leads to presence, to aliveness, to the quiet dignity of a man who knows his worth. Not because he performs, but because he remembers. The quiet fade only wins when you stop noticing. But today, you noticed, and that is enough to begin again. When a man stops feeling like himself, there's a strange kind of sadness that comes when a man starts forgetting who he used to be. Not because of memory loss, but because of disconnection. You look in the mirror and see the same structure, the same features, but something's missing. Not on your face, inside it, that familiar spark, that quiet certainty, the feeling of knowing, this is me. It's grown faint, not gone, but harder to reach, and you can't quite explain it, not to your wife, not to your doctor, not even to yourself. You're not depressed, not exactly, you're not broken, you still go about your day, you still show up, do what needs doing, but something in you knows you're not all there. not in the way you once were. There was a time when the world felt clearer, when your body felt like an owl, something you could trust, when desire wasn't something you had to search for. It just rose, like breath, natural, effortless. Now it's different. Your energy's lower, your drive softer, your mood heavier, and you might have blamed yourself. Maybe you still do. Maybe you tell yourself you're not trying hard enough, or that you've become weak, lazy, indifferent. Maybe you quietly wonder if you're just past it. But what if this isn't a character flaw? What if it's not about effort, but about biology? Because as the body changes, so does the man inside it. Your hormones shift, testosterone lowers, cortisol rises, sleep becomes elusive, and slowly, subtly, the foundation that once held you steady starts to shift. But here's the thing most men aren't told. When your hormones change, so does your sense of self. Not just in the bedroom, not just in your muscles or your mood, but in the very essence of how you relate to life. You feel less assertive, less clear, less you, and yet no one warned you. No one told you that this would happen, that you might wake up one day and not recognize your own inner voice. You see, this loss of identity, it doesn't come from weakness. It comes from unseen pressure, from carrying decades of responsibility, from suppressing emotion, from the cultural silence around male aging, from years of pushing forward without pause. It's grief, really, but it hides well. It wears the face of fatigue, of apathy, of restlessness. But deep down, it's the soul asking, where did I go? You haven't disappeared. You've just grown quiet in a world that never asked how you're really doing. And when a man doesn't feel seen, when he doesn't feel wanted by others, by his own body, he starts to pull away from himself. But that pulling away isn't the end. It's a message, a signal that something sacred is asking to be heard. Maybe it begins here, with simply naming it, with saying, out loud or in silence, I don't feel like myself anymore. Not as a complaint, not as self-pity, but as a truth, because in that truth there is power, not the kind you show to the world, the quiet kind, the kind that says, even now, I want to come home to myself. That mirror on the wall, it doesn't just reflect your face, it reflects your story, your resilience, your quiet battles, and yes, maybe the man in the glass looks tired, maybe his eyes don't burn the way they once did. But behind those eyes, the fire can return, not with a supplement, not with a pep talk, but with compassion, with understanding what's truly at play beneath the surface. You are not less of a man. You are a man in transition. From urgency to presence, from expectation to essence, from outer performance to inner truth, and if it feels unfamiliar, if it feels like a stranger has entered your skin, then know this. Every rite of passage has a moment like this. A moment when the old self dissolves and the new one hasn't yet arrived. It's disorienting, yes, but it's also sacred. You don't have to fix it all. You don't need to force a return. You simply need to be here. With yourself, with the man who's still inside you, waiting to be remembered. Let this be the beginning not of going back, but of arriving fully, for the first time in a long time. The forgotten fuel beneath it all the body is always speaking. Not with words, but through rhythm, through feeling, through energy or the absence of it. And for many men, somewhere around their 60s, that rhythm begins to falter. The engine still runs, but it struggles in the morning. The fire still burns, but it flickers instead of roaring. Desire still lives somewhere inside, but it doesn't rise like it used to. You feel it most when you wake, that sluggishness in your limbs, that heaviness behind your eyes, that dullness in the places where spark once lived. You stretch, you move, you go through the motions. Maybe you pour your coffee and try to chase the fog away. But what if the problem isn't the coffee? What if the problem is what's missing? You see, men were never taught about fuel, not the kind that comes in calories or caffeine, but the deep fuel, the kind your hormones and brain and cells need to feel alive. For decades, you may have survived on adrenaline, stress, crisis, urgency. You ran on pressure, not nourishment. But now, your body won't accept that deal anymore. It's asking for real fuel, stable fuel. Biological truth, and one of the most overlooked forms of that truth is fat, not the kind that clogs, the kind that builds, healthy oils, essential fats, the raw materials your body needs to make hormones, to regulate energy, to restore nerve function, to fire up desire again from the inside out. You see, testosterone doesn't just drop because of age. It drops because your body no longer has the building blocks to make it. Every hormone has a blueprint, and that blueprint begins with fat. For years we were told fat was the enemy. Cut it out, go low, go light, and many men did. But what they didn't realize is in starving their fat intake, they starved the very system that makes them feel like men. Because without the right fats, testosterone flatlines, libido fades, energy crashes, and your nervous system goes into slow motion. It's not a moral failing, it's a nutrient collapse. You might be eating enough, but if you're not absorbing or activating the right oils, you're running a performance machine on empty. Think of your body like an old truck. It still works, but it needs quality fuel, not processed shortcuts, not quick fixes, something real, grounded, and consistent. That's where healthy oils come in: olive oil, coconut oil, MCTs, omega-3s. Each one plays a quiet but powerful role. They support your brain. They lubricate your joints. They reduce inflammation. And most importantly, they help restore hormone production. When you add the right oil to your morning coffee, you're not just changing your routine. You're speaking to your body. You're telling it, I remember you. I still care. I want you to work with me, not against me. This isn't about chasing youth. It's not about reclaiming something that's gone. It's about feeding what still remains and helping it rise again, stronger, steadier, wiser. 1 tablespoon may seem like a small thing, but it's not just oil. It's permission. Permission for your metabolism to stop fighting. Permission for your nervous system to feel safe. Permission for your mind to regain clarity, and for your body to reclaim warmth. And it's not instant. It doesn't work like caffeine. It works like time. Like nature, slow, sure, lasting. So the next time you stir your coffee, don't rush it. Let that swirl be a reminder that change doesn't have to be loud to be real, that healing doesn't have to come through battle. Sometimes it comes through fuel, through quiet decisions, through small acts of nourishment that ripple out into every system you've forgotten how to trust. This isn't a fix, it's a return to the language of your biology, to the rhythm of your hormones, to the quiet fire in your belly that once made you feel powerful and can again. You don't need to overhaul everything. You just need to begin feeding the parts of you that forgot they mattered. Because they do, and when they're fed, they remember. Hormones, desire, and the myth of willpower. There's a moment that every man eventually faces, but few are willing to name. A moment when desire doesn't come when it's called. When arousal doesn't respond like it used to. When the body feels quiet in ways it never did before, and you try not to panic. You try to brush it off. A long week, a stressful day. Maybe it's just temporary. But then it happens again and again, until you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? It's not about performance, really. It's something deeper, a feeling that you've grown distant from your own masculinity. Not in a macho way, but in the quiet sense of being wired into your body, of feeling your own current, and when that current weakens, a strange silence enters the room. You feel it most in moments of intimacy. When touch feels more like routine than response, when the spark that once lit up your whole body now flickers, or doesn't come at all, you might try to force it, you might blame yourself, you might tell yourself you're not trying hard enough, that you're lazy, weak, unmotivated, that if you just willed it, the old fire would return. But here's the truth that most men never hear. This isn't about willpower. It never was. Your desire is not a moral issue. It's not a measure of strength. It's not a reflection of your character. It's biology, it's chemistry, it's nervous system truth. When your testosterone drops, when your dopamine receptors dull, when your cortisol climbs. Your ability to feel desire, to get aroused, to stay connected, it all gets impacted. Not because you've failed, but because your system is trying to adapt, without the fuel and safety it needs to thrive. You are not broken, you are not less of a man. You are a man whose body is speaking a language no one ever taught you how to understand. This is why the old advice, just try harder, is not only wrong. It's harmful because it turns a biological reality into a private shame, and shame is the fastest way to shut down arousal completely. Desire needs safety, it needs softness, it needs a nervous system that isn't in survival mode. But most men live every day in a kind of low-grade stress, hypervigilant, overcommitted, disconnected from breath, from body, from pleasure, and in that state, your body cannot produce or respond to desire. Not because it won't, but because it knows it's not safe to. And here's the beautiful truth beneath all of this. You don't have to force desire. You can invite it. You can nourish it. You can restore it slowly, gently, respectfully. It begins with understanding that testosterone isn't just about erections, it's about confidence, focus, initiative, mood, drive, and when it declines, you don't just feel less sexual. You feel less yourself, but there are ways to support it, ways to awaken what's dormant, not by pushing harder, but by creating space for it to return. That's the real shift, moving from will to welcoming. From force to presence. Imagine this. A man sits alone in his bedroom. The light is low. He looks down at his hands and wonders when he stopped feeling. Not just in his body, but in his heart. He's not weak. He's not gone. He's just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of performing. Tired of feeling like he's always supposed to be on. And in that moment, if he could just let himself be without judgment, without expectation, he might feel the first flicker of something new. A warmth, a stir, a slow return. That's how desire works now. It doesn't rush. It doesn't roar. It listens. It waits for the man to meet himself again. And when he does, when he begins feeding his body with the right fats, resting when needed, breathing with awareness, touching without agenda, something ancient starts to reawaken. It's not the boyhood hunger for conquest. It's not the performance of power. It's the wholeness of a man who remembers how to feel again. Your body wants to support you. Your desire wants to return. It's not a fight. It's a reunion, so let go of the myth. Willpower was never the way. Presence is. And if you meet yourself gently in stillness, in nourishment, in truth, your body will remember what it means to burn. Quietly, fully, beautifully. The morning ritual that speaks to your cells somewhere in your kitchen. Probably near the corner of the counter, there's a cup waiting for you. Maybe it's been the same mug for years, slightly worn, familiar, dependable. You fill it with coffee as you've done 1,000 mornings before. And in that moment, for just a few seconds, the world feels still. Steam rises. The aroma wraps around you like a memory. But then something subtle happens. You drink and feel nothing. The ritual is there. But the meaning is gone. It's become automatic, a placeholder for presence. A gesture that once energized, now just fills time. This is the space where change begins. Not the kind of change that requires discipline, goals, or tracking apps, but the quiet kind, the kind that begins with a single question. What if I gave my body something it's been missing, not just nutritionally, but symbolically? There's a reason this chapter begins with coffee. Because coffee is a moment, a space between sleep and day, a chance to speak to your system before the world pulls at you from every side, and when you add the right oil to that cup, you're not just changing the recipe. You're speaking a language your body has been longing to hear. MCT oil, extra virgin olive oil, even a spoonful of grass-fed ghee, these are more than health fads, they're fuel signals. They tell your body you are safe. You are seen. You have what you need to wake up fully, not just mentally, but hormonally, emotionally, sexually, because when healthy fats meet warm liquid, something ancient stirs. At a cellular level, You're delivering what your mitochondria crave, the engines inside your cells that power every movement, every breath, every erection, every emotion. You're feeding the brain, balancing blood sugar, supporting testosterone synthesis, reducing inflammation, calming the nervous system, restoring the fuel for fire, not the reckless blaze of youth, but the steady burn of grounded vitality, and most importantly, you're beginning your day with care, not caffeine, with attention, not autopilot. You're creating a morning ritual that doesn't just wake you up, it reminds you who you are. The modern world loves hacks. Bulletproof this, biohack that, but this isn't about chasing youth. It's about remembering wisdom. This is about making your first act of the day an act of alignment between what you do and what you truly need. And here's the truth that most men overlook. Small rituals are not small. They're signals to your cells, to your subconscious, to the part of you that wonders if you're still worth tending to. When you stir that oil into your coffee slowly, not in haste, you are telling yourself, my vitality matters, my presence matters, my energy is worth protecting. It's not about what the oil does on paper, though yes, it supports testosterone, libido, mental clarity, and immune resilience. It's about how you do it, how you hold the cup, how you breathe, how you notice what happens when you feed yourself something true. Over time, that single act can ripple outward. Maybe your mind feels clearer by mid-morning. Maybe your mood is softer with the people around you. Maybe your body starts to respond not dramatically, but gradually to the feeling of being fed, not just filled. And maybe, just maybe, the man who once felt distant in the mirror begins to return. Not in one day, but slowly, faithfully, like a tide, because rituals, when repeated with reverence, do more than support the body. They rebuild the bridge between body and mind, between self-care and self-respect. This is how you reclaim energy, not with effort, but with rhythm. This is how you rekindle desire, not with pressure, but with permission. And this is how you invite vitality to return, not by shouting at your body, but by listening to it. One quiet morning at a time, so tomorrow, before the day begins, before the tasks take over, before the world expects anything of you, stand in your kitchen, hold that cup, add the oil, stir with intention. Not to fix yourself, not to perform, but to remember that your energy still lives here. Your power still breathes here, and your body, when spoken to gently, will always speak back. Chapter 6. Living from fire again. There's a kind of fire that never burns out. Not the wild blaze of youth, but the deep ember that sits in the center of a man. You were born with it. It's the part of you that once knew how to run before you could reason. The part that gripped the world with hunger, with certainty, with instinct. But over time, something happened, not all at once, more like a slow dimming, 1,000 small concessions, a few silent disappointments, a handful of losses you never fully named, and that fire, that internal spark that used to guide you didn't disappear. It just got quieter, it curled inward, waiting, because here's what no one tells you in your 60s. Your body doesn't just lose hormones, it stores stories, every stress you pushed through, every moment you had to appear strong when you felt anything but. Every time you kept moving when your soul asked you to pause. That doesn't just go away. It accumulates, the fatigue, the low drive, the lack of desire, direction, or clarity. These aren't failures of manhood. They're signals, they're the body's quiet plea, come back to me, not to your past self, but to something deeper, wiser, more elemental. This is what it means to live from fire again, not by doing more. Not by chasing testosterone clinics or performance hacks, but by listening, by returning to the center of your chest, to the space behind your ribs, to the breath that deepens, when you stop bracing for the next demand. Because that ember, the one you thought you lost, it's still here, and you don't need a reason to reclaim it, you only need permission. The truth is, your fire was never meant to stay at full flame. It was meant to pulse, to expand and contract with the seasons of your life, but we were never taught that. We were taught to push, to pursue, to perform, so when the body slows down, when the spark feels faint, we panic, we feel broken, but what if this slowdown isn't the end of vitality? What if it's the invitation to live from the fire, not just chase it, to rise each morning not with urgency, but with a deep, warm steadiness, to feel turned on by life again not through force, but through connection, to your breath, to your food, to the sound of your feet against the earth, to the presence of your own body when no one else is watching. That's the fire. It's not in the image you present. It's in the way your nervous system settles when you feel safe in your skin. It's not in the scale or the mirror. It's in how deeply you sleep and how fully you wake. It's in your capacity to respond to life, not react to it. And yes, it's in your erections, not the kind that prove your worth, but the kind that remind you you're still alive and worthy of pleasure. This is not about performance, it's about presence. A man living from fire again doesn't need applause. He doesn't need to explain. He simply begins to feel himself return, a little more energy in the morning, a little less fear in his choices, a little more connection to the woman he loves or the man he once was, a little more depth in his gaze, a little less noise in his mind. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to remember the warmth, the rhythm, the strength that doesn't need to shout. And if all this sounds far away, if it feels like it belongs to another life, then let this truth meet you gently. Your body remembers. Even when your mind forgets, even when your confidence wavers, even when the world moves too fast, the flame may be quiet, but it is never gone, and when you stop chasing energy and start honoring it, your body will respond. Slowly, faithfully, like something ancient coming home. So today, you don't need to fix anything. You don't need to get back to normal. There is no normal, there is only one now, and now is a good place to begin. Stand still, breathe low, and listen, not for the fire that once was, but for the one that's been waiting, right here, at the center of your life, at the center of your chest. What a man's skin can tell him about his hormones, the body speaks. Even when the words are buried beneath decades of silence, it doesn't shout, it whispers, softly, steadily, through texture, sensation, and change. And for a man in his 60s, there is one place that often tells the truth even before blood tests do. The skin, you've probably noticed it, not just wrinkles, but something deeper. The skin that once felt firm, vital, alive now feels thinner, drier, less responsive. Sometimes it bruises more easily, heals more slowly, loses its tone not from age, but from something more subtle. This is not vanity, it's biology. Skin is the largest organ of the body, and it is deeply tied to the hormonal fire that fuels your energy, drive, and resilience. When testosterone begins to fade, your skin is one of the first places to feel it. It loses collagen. It becomes less elastic. The circulation beneath it weakens, and suddenly, that warm glow you once had fades, not because you're fading, but because the systems that once nourished your skin are now under pressure, and beneath that, something even more primal is happening. See, testosterone isn't just about erections. It's about structure, the invisible scaffolding that holds a man together in his bones, his skin, his mind. When that scaffolding weakens, a man doesn't just feel tired, he feels less himself. It's not about looks. It's about presence, the way your skin once stretched over your frame with vitality that was a signal that your body was alive with energy, fire, and confidence. And when the skin begins to change, when it dulls or sags or bruises, your body isn't punishing you. It's calling you back to slow down, to listen, to notice what needs tending, because here's what most men don't realize: skin isn't just an outer layer. It's a mirror of what's happening within. When your hormones decline, so does your skin's ability to repair itself. The oils that once kept it supple begin to vanish. The blood vessels that once nourished it begin to constrict. And sometimes, so do you. You feel less touchable, less confident, less magnetic, even if no one says it out loud. You feel it in the silence between conversations, in the way your shirt fits, in the mirror when you're shaving. And here's the part that matters most. This isn't about reversing time. It's about reclaiming your relationship with your body. You see, when testosterone dips, your body starts to forget how to renew itself. But your mind doesn't have to. You can support your skin and your hormones by choosing to remember, to nourish, to move, to reconnect. Because when you walk, when you stretch, when you breathe deep into your belly, you bring oxygen back to your skin. You stimulate blood flow, you awaken testosterone's natural rhythm. Even food becomes medicine. Fats like olive oil, avocados, wild fish, they feed your hormones. They support the skin, they send the message, this body is still a home worth caring for. And when you sleep deeply, not distracted, not overstimulated, your testosterone begins to repair itself. Quietly, faithfully, like the sun returning at dawn. The truth is, a man's skin can tell you what he won't. How long he's been carrying the weight, how many years he's gone without rest, how deeply he longs to feel strong again, not in the gym, but in his own reflection. And the good news, none of this is fixed. The body is always listening, always responding. You don't need to chase youth, you only need to restore respect. Touch your face with presence, feel your skin again, not to judge, but to reconnect. It's still yours, it still speaks your name, let it remind you, you are still in here. You are still a man, and your body, no matter how much it's changed, has never stopped wanting to serve you. Not in appearance, but in presence, because in the quiet language of your skin is the story of how much you've lived, how much you've endured, and how much you still long to feel. So today, you don't need to fix it. You don't need to hide it. You don't need to explain it. You only need to honor it, gently, with curiosity, with breath. Let your skin be a teacher, not of age, but of awareness, and let that awareness lead you home. Why men stop craving touch and how to gently reawaken it. There's something that happens slowly. So slowly, you might not even notice it at first. One day, you realize you no longer reach out for touch. Not like you used to. It's not rejection you fear. Not exactly. It's something quieter, harder to name. Maybe it began after your body changed, a little more weight around the belly, a little less firmness in your hands. You stopped feeling as confident in the space you took up. So you pulled back, not out of shame, but out of uncertainty, and slowly, without meaning to, you began to live without touch. No hand on your shoulder, no arms around your back, no fingertips across your chest, no soft warmth of skin meeting skin just for the sake of it. This isn't just about intimacy, it's about human need, because a man doesn't stop needing touch as he ages. He just learns how to go without it, sometimes because he doesn't want to seem needy, sometimes because he's afraid he no longer deserves it, sometimes because life became so full of roles and responsibilities. That touch got lost somewhere in the noise, but here's the truth. Touch isn't a luxury, it's a language, and when that language is missing, a man starts to feel like a stranger in his own skin. You may not even realize what you've been missing. But your nervous system does, your heart does, your hormonal rhythms, your muscle tension, your sleep patterns, they've all been shaped by the quiet absence of being held. It's not about sex, it's about belonging. Because when someone touches you gently, with presence, your body remembers that it's safe, that it matters, that you are not just a thinking mind or a tired provider. You are still alive, still worthy of warmth. And if you've gone years, even decades, without that kind of contact, you may begin to forget what it feels like. Your skin stops asking for it, your body stops expecting it, and eventually, so does your heart. But deep underneath, the longing never really leaves. It just goes quiet, waiting for permission. Sometimes that permission starts with the smallest gesture, placing your own hand over your heart in the morning. Not to analyze, not to fix, just to feel. Your own touch, without judgment, can begin to reawaken that connection. It sounds simple, maybe even silly, but it's not. Because when you touch yourself with intention, your chest, your forearms, Your neck you are reminding your nervous system, I am still here, and I still matter. From there, you can begin to seek out more. Not through force, not through performance, but through presence, a hug that lasts a little longer, a massage not just for the body, but for the spirit, resting your hand on someone's back with care and letting them do the same. It's not about rekindling desire in the way the world defines it. It's about coming back into contact with yourself, with others, with the silent truth that you still need tenderness, because you do. Not as a weakness, not as a failure of masculinity, but as a deep human truth. Men need affection too, and when they don't get it, they often turn inward, numbing themselves with distraction, detaching from their emotions, or chasing connection through performance. But what if you didn't have to perform? What if you could just receive, not to prove anything, not to earn anything, just because your body is worthy of care? That's the invitation now. To reawaken your relationship with touch, first by acknowledging the grief of what's been missing, and then by gently allowing it to return. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't even need to speak it out loud, but you can begin. Place your palm over your chest right now and just feel. There's warmth, there's life, there's still longing. That's not weakness. That's the thread that keeps you human. Because the opposite of touch is not independent. It's a disconnection, and a man disconnected from his own skin is a man slowly fading from himself. But you can return, through breath, through contact, through the quiet choice to let yourself be felt again. You've carried so much alone, but your body was never meant to be untouched. It was built to be held, so start gently, and start with yourself. The rest will find its way back. The silent grief of aging, and why you must name it to heal. There are losses that make noise. A funeral, a retirement, a divorce. But there are other losses, the kind that happen slowly, quietly, beneath the surface of your everyday life. You don't mark them on a calendar, you don't speak them aloud, but you feel them. The loss of strength when lifting something that used to be light. The loss of clarity when your words slip just out of reach. The loss of certainty in your own body. Will it rise when you ask it to? Will it last when you need it to? And then there are deeper losses. The friend who stops calling. The wife who no longer looks at you with the same light in her eyes. The children who now seem like distant adults in a world you barely recognize. This is the quiet grief of aging, not dramatic, not tragic, but constant. It doesn't knock the wind out of you, it wears you down. And if you're like most men, you've been taught not to name it. You power through, you hold it in, you pretend it doesn't sting, but it does. You see, grief isn't just about death, it's about change. About the slow erosion of what once felt familiar. The face in the mirror that looks just slightly more tired. The dreams you quietly let go of. The rituals that faded when no one showed up anymore. These are losses too. And they deserve to be named, because when you don't name grief, it doesn't disappear. It burrows, it hardens, it turns into something else: bitterness, withdrawal, numbness. You may not call it grief, but your body knows it's there. In the tightness in your chest, in the way your breath shortens when you think about the past, in the way your eyes well up for no apparent reason when a certain song plays, or when you see an old man walking alone. There's nothing wrong with you. You're grieving, even if no one ever told you it was allowed, because men are rarely taught how to grieve. They're taught how to endure, and there's strength in that. But strength without softness becomes armor. And armor, over time, gets heavy. So let this be your quiet permission. It's okay to feel sad, to feel lost, to feel unsure of who you are in this new season of life. It doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're alive. It means you've cared. It means you're human. There's a kind of manhood that gets stronger with age, not by ignoring pain, but by allowing it to be seen. You don't have to share it with everyone, but you can start by sharing it with yourself. Sit with it, the memory of your father's hands, the sound of your children's laughter when they were small, the man you used to be, how sharp he was, how fast, how certain. He's still here, changed, yes, but not gone, and there's room now for a deeper kind of presence, one that doesn't need to conquer or prove or fix, One that simply says, I've lived, I've lost, and I'm still standing. There's sacredness in that. And if the tears come, let them, not because you're weak, but because you're ready, ready to make space inside yourself for what was never fully grieved. It may not look like a funeral, it may not come with flowers or eulogies, but your grief is real, and it is worthy of a moment, a breath, a hand over your heart, because something has been lost, and pretending it hasn't doesn't make you strong. It makes you alone. But when you name it quietly, honestly, without shame, you begin to reclaim something. Not what was, but what is. A new kind of strength, not of muscle or performance, but of stillness, of presence, of tenderness without apology. Grief softens a man in the best way. It makes him more real, more grounded, more available to himself and to those still walking with him. So take this moment. No one's watching, no one's judging. Place your hand on your chest and just say it inwardly, I miss what I've lost. Then let it go just a little. And maybe in that quiet space you'll feel something else awaken too, not the past, not the youth, but peace, not because nothing was lost, but because you finally made room for it. That's healing. Not fixing, not forgetting, just facing it, gently, fully, like a man who knows he no longer has to carry it all alone. The healing power of slowing down at some point. The world started moving too fast. You didn't notice it at first, it was gradual, the acceleration of life, always something to do, somewhere to be, something urgent to respond to, and like most men you adapted, you kept up, you worked harder. You moved quicker, you learned how to suppress your needs just to meet the moment, but somewhere in the rush, you began to lose something, your stillness, your breath, your inner compass. You stopped hearing yourself, stopped feeling the quiet intelligence of your body. Stopped trusting the slower, wiser voice within. That's the hidden cost of modern aging. Not just aching joints or tired eyes, but the relentless pressure to move at a pace your soul never agreed to. And now here you are, a man with decades behind you, experience, scars, wisdom that most will never see. And yet you're tired, not just physically, but spiritually. It's not burnout. It's not laziness. It's your body asking you to slow down because your life is asking you to listen. You weren't made to move like a machine. You weren't built to hustle your way into peace. Peace requires pause. That's not weakness. That's nature. The oak tree doesn't rush to grow. The tides don't hurry to impress the shore. And your body, this vessel you've walked in for over 6 decades, was never meant to race to the finish line. There's a different rhythm now, and it's waiting for you to remember it. The rhythm of waking without urgency, of sipping your coffee slowly, as if your breath is more important than your to-do list. The rhythm of walking without destination, feeling the earth beneath your feet, noticing the wind on your face. The rhythm of being present to the ordinary moments, your wife's quiet humming in the kitchen, the familiar creak of the stairs, the warmth of water over your hands. This isn't just poetic, it's physiological. When you slow down, your nervous system recalibrates, your heart softens, your hormones begin to shift, cortisol lowers, testosterone steadies, circulation improves. Your digestion, your immune system, even your ability to think clearly, they all depend on the pace you live by. Slowing down is not a luxury, it's a form of healing, but few men are ever told this. You were taught that worth comes from doing, from producing, from pushing through. No one told you that a quiet morning with no agenda can be just as powerful as a career milestone. No one taught you that sitting still with your own thoughts is not wasting time, it's remembering who you are. And who you are is not just what you've done. You are not your accomplishments. You are not your productivity. You are not your bank account, your title, or your past decisions. You are the one who witnessed it all. The one who kept showing up. The one who still breathes, and that breath even now is a miracle. So let yourself slow down, not because you're old, not because you've given up, but because slowing down lets you return to something truer. There's a quiet power in moving at your own pace. It means you're no longer chasing time, you're living in it. You're not behind, you're present. You're not declining, you're deepening. And the man who knows how to slow down, who chooses stillness over speed, becomes something the world desperately needs, grounded, rooted, calm in the chaos. That kind of man is not outdated, he is rare. So let the younger men run, let the world chase noise, you can choose a different path. Wake up slow, eat real food, listen more than you speak, step outside without your phone, breathe deeper than your worries. You've earned this kind of life, not a retreat, a return to who you were before the pressure, to who you are beneath the noise, because in the end, no one remembers how fast you moved. They remember how present you were, how seen they felt in your company, how safe your presence became. That's the power of slowing down. It softens your heart. It sharpens your spirit. It makes room for joy, not the wild kind, but the quiet kind that lingers. And maybe, in the stillness, you'll realize you're not running out of time, you're finally learning how to live in it,